Hey everyone, it's BJ with Reef Therapy. So this week I said we were going to talk a little bit about Acropower, Reef Roids, and automatic fish feeding. So I think these things are all very important. Automation is something that I'm really trying to implement into my system. That's why I have so much stuff for the Apex. But I think it's really important for balance, stability in the whole entire system to make sure that all the different elements that that go into having a reef tank are all balanced with each other, so that the tank you can learn your tank and it can run in a stable condition for a long period of time. Now, part of that system is going to be nutrition of both the fish and the corals that you keep. So I think it is real important to talk about fish foods, coral foods, supplements, and things like that. The first thing I think to really talk about is a product called Acropower. So since my reef is going to be primarily SPS dominant, specifically Acropower, I settled on trying the product Acropower. Acropower is something that I actually used a few years ago when I had my 120 gallon mixed reef tank. I liked it then, but I honestly didn't use it long enough to make a determination if I liked if it had any effect, honestly. So now that I started this new system, I decided to try this out. So I'm going to actually show you a few pictures of some corals, basically from day one, before I started dosing Acropower, to now, or at least a few days ago that I started dosing Acropower. And even since I've taken these pictures, I've noticed some more growth in some of these acros that I'm going to show you. So check it out. Acropower, if you don't know what it is an amino acid solution. So it's supposed to be specifically help aid in skeletal growth, coloration, and polyp extension, overall health of Acropower. So check out these pictures, because you could see in all these pictures that there is some pretty clear growth. One of the biggest things that I've noticed, and you'll notice if you look at these, is the polyp extension on the corals themselves is much better than before I started. That is really the first sign that people look for when they're using Acropower. They say that you usually notice polyp extension within the first day or two. I have to say that was my result once I started dosing the product. Through these pictures, you can see coloration is either there, improving, or it's maintaining. Now, part of it is making sure you get healthy corals to begin with, but and I'm pretty much sourcing mine from local hobbyists that have really nice healthy tanks. But you can see in these corals the coloration's good, the polyp extension is amazing, especially more so from when I first started dosing, and there's definitely growth that's noticeable. Now, Acropower, it does say on the bottle, the directions state that it's 5 mils for every 25 gallons. I made an estimate to say with the tank and sump that I'm about 50 gallons total, so it should be 10 mils, but it also says, for me specifically, 10 mils per week. I'll be honest with you, I don't really follow that. What I will do is I'll take actually a cap, and I'll actually do 2 capfuls into a power head or the return pump, and I'm just going to do it now because I haven't done it yet today, but you take the proper dose, you should, and dose it to your tank once a week. And it's really that simple. It doesn't require refrigeration, any kind of special storage requirements, but I do keep it, of course, sealed in the bottle. Don't want it to be exposed to air or anything like that. I don't know if it's gonna degrade or cause it to be unstable or anything like that, but it's an easy product. You can even set it up with a dosing pump if you want to. I haven't noticed any kind of algae spikes or nutrient spikes of any kind since I've used it. Supposedly, and I think it does say somewhere on the bottle, yeah, Acropower does not promote algae blooms or elevate nutrient levels. So that's a really good thing about this too. I do think it is a combination of many different things, but I do automatic water changes, 2 gallons a day on my 40-50 gallon system. I have Acropower dosing, and then I have my Trident that monitors the different chemistry levels in the tank. So, I mean, in a combination of all those things, I think it's all kind of playing into the health and growth and coloration of the acros, but you know, ever since I started using this, I have seen noticeable growth. So, you know, take it what you will, I guess. I mean, I can't really prove that it does work, but I haven't noticed anything negative so far, only positive. So check it out if you're interested. There is a link down below that you can go to, take you directly to where you can purchase this. Next product I'm going to talk about is Reef Roids. So there's two coral foods that I like to feed. I don't have any reef chili at the moment, but I do have Reef Roids. This is something that I will either spot feed to the corals, or I will just actually mix it with my New Life Spectrum pellets and put it in the automatic fish feeder. Then whenever the automatic fish feeder goes off through the day, it will dose both pellets and Reef Roids. It doesn't gum it up, it doesn't clog it up or anything like that, but that ensures that the Reef Roids get into the tank. It's helping to let the corals eat basically every day, and keeping them nice and colored up, and making sure there's plenty of nutrients in the water column for them to take in and help them grow. I've been using Reef Roids again for as long as I've been in the hobby. I shouldn't say that. It's since I had my 120 gallon reef tank a couple of years ago. I used to only primarily spot feed a couple times a week. Usually when the lights were off, I would take a couple scoops of Reef Roids. I don't know, maybe at most like a quarter of a teaspoon, or maybe and a half. It's somewhere around there. I never really measured it, but enough to make it pretty thick in some solution, and then I'd suck it in with a turkey baster, and I would just go around spot feeding Acropower especially, but you can make it thick enough to do acans, brain corals, scolies, anything you really like. And then of course the corals that have the smaller mouths that really pull food in through the water and all that, like gorgonians and sometimes zoanthids and other stuff like that, you just make a nice fine mist and let them grab that. But I like Reef Roids. As you can see, it's a fine powder food. It doesn't dissolve in water, so you do have to be careful. Like when I do my automatic fish feeding, the Apex turns off the return pump first. That way I don't have, because when the feeder goes off and it drops the Reef Roids on the surface of the water, it's not going to sink just like that. There's got to be some turbulence in the water. So the power heads are still going, the return pump's not, and then the power heads are actually sucking the Reef Roids down into the water, and along with the pellets and everything, and it's all going into the water column for the corals to then pull in and eat. So again, I think it's a real important element to the success that I'm having, is to ensure that there's plenty of food, nutrients for the corals on a daily basis. Now, again, it is nice because I can mix the pellets directly with the Reef Roids and put them in the feeder. That way I don't have to sit here every single day, especially when things get busy again. I really don't have a lot of time to sit with the tank, so it's helpful for me to be able to put that in there and not worry about clogging it up. There's going to be a link for this again down in the description. Check it out. I do recommend this product. I think it works really well. I've noticed a lot of positive growth and feeding reaction from the corals. There's actually been a study on coral health and nutrition growth with a few different coral products, and I think Reef Roids and Reef Chili were two of the best performing products for that. I mean, don't quote me. You can find that. That paper online, I'm sure. I think Bulk Reef Supply has that somewhere. They've mentioned it a few times, so it's definitely worth checking out. Especially if you have, you're just not really satisfied with the growth that you're getting from your corals. This is, I won't say it's guaranteed to work, but I think it's really worth the time and effort to use this. So this is my Apex automated fish feeder. So I feed twice a day, one drum rotation twice a day, a mixture of New Life Spectrum pellets, a couple different sizes, some nori that I chopped up real small, and Reef Roids. So once my Apex says that, once the timer goes off for my Apex to feed the fish, it goes into feed cycle A. Feed cycle A actually shuts off the return pump. When that happens, the Apex automatic feeder goes off. It'll spin around once and then of course deposit some of the food into the water for the fish to eat. Now since I manually told the feeder to go off, the return pump actually went off the same time the feeder started going.
but normally what would happen is the return pump would shut off. There'd be about a 2-minute delay, and then the automatic feeder would go off and deposit the food onto the water. So you can see the power heads are still going here, and with that happening, it's creating turbulence where the food is dropped into the water, and that's causing the food and the reef roids to be pulled down in to where the fish can actually get it. Now, it will take a minute because the New Life Spectrum pellets, for the most part, I think they do sell sinking pellets, but I don't have them, so they do sit on the surface until they become waterlogged, and then they will drop down. So the automated fish feeding is nice because the feed mode in the Apex is nice because you can shut off the pump, and it gives that food time to be dragged down underneath.
So how do you feel about coral foods and dosing some of these supplements to help with coral growth, coloration, and overall health? I do have many friends that don't believe in most of these products, and I do have a lot that do. So obviously you know my take on it, and I do believe that they work, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say, what your thoughts are. So let me know. Definitely reach out some way, comments on the videos, find me on Instagram, YouTube, Reef Therapy on both. Also, if you go to my Instagram or YouTube, there's a link to my website, and that's kind of like the central base that I'm trying to work on building every day. So I really hope to hear from you soon. I appreciate you watching. Thank you. Have a good one.